What happened there, Todd? That's the shortest one ever.
Oh, was it? Did it pop off? Oh, sorry.
All right, guys. I'm moving closer to the router.
This is going to be a fun one tonight. Hey, guys.
It sure is.
My name's
There we
Craig.
go.
Crafty.
I'm moving.
There's nothing like going live.
Moving closer to the router.
We've got someone we're going to introduce shortly.
Once he calms his farm a bit.
Yeah.
We're live now, John.
You're
we're
good, mate.
well live.
All right, so welcome. This is Shooting the Shit, Aussie Craft Distillers, and we're pretty loose. And,
It's going to be a good one tonight.
So tonight we're missing the engine room of Shoot the Shit, where the guy that holds it all
technical
together.
issues left, right, and centre. Bostic lost his stick.
From an IT perspective and input.
It's me.
Luke. So tonight we're in the capable hands of the Todd, my right-hand man, who does not profess to be an IT expert, and we will see how we go. The shoulders.
And now it's time for Throw the Todd under the bus.
Yeah, we might let you off that in future because I reckon this is going to be a year's worth tonight. All right,
Let's doing it now because the whole thing's going to be this way from moving forward.
Anyway, so let's kick it off. Okay, so on my screen on the top right is Mr. Robbie Tugnott. Robbie, how are you, mate?
Oh, I'm going good, guys. How are you? Thanks for helping me.
Good. You're looking pretty relaxed there.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty relaxed. I'm pretty relaxed with the guy, I suppose.
So Robbie is a very busy man. He's got his fingers in quite a few things, and we'll run through that shortly. And at the bottom of the screen, we have John Carberry all the way from Scotland, coming in hard on the cooperage side. And John's got a bit of a story to tell about what he's been doing in the past and what's going in the future. And we'll get bits of John throughout the session. So when he's on, we might jump straight into questions, John, and grab him while we can, I think. So anyway, let's kick it off. So the first thing we do is what's everyone drinking? What's everyone got in their glass? So Robbie, what are you drinking, mate?
Currently, I've got a couple of things going on. I've got one of my favourite beers from the Hop Hen Brewery in Lilydale in the Yarra Valley, Victoria. It's a smoked porter at 5%, and it pairs really well with my Barrel House 28. Oh, shiver me timbers. There we go. Barrel House 28. Warrabilla Giraffe cask, single cask whiskey. Oh, God. I've got to get rid of this bloody background, don't I? Yeah, so a smoked porter from a local a local brewery and one of our independent bottlings, Barrel House 28.
Right. Okay. And what do you got, Todd?
I'll start off with our friends from Flinders Island, Furno.
Furno, yep. Nice drop that.
I don't know if it's coming through. It's their single malt peated. What's drinking? It's lasting pretty well.
Yep.
And then I'll probably finish the night off with my other friends from Blackgate tonight. So this is Blackgate 95.
95. Yeah, the peated one. Yeah, yep.
The peated one.
All right. Well, I'm probably just going to stay on one tonight. And funny enough,
it's Blackgate 95.
Blackgate 95. Just so happened. one sitting out of New South Wales, and it's a very, very tasty drop indeed. So going with that. All right. Well, let's.
Now, before we even get started, guys, I've got to do something real quickly.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. I've got to whack on a. I got dared. I got dared to put on a jumper by a couple of my distilling friends, and I know that if I. So, this was I got dared to. I got told I wouldn't wear this by my good friends Josh Walker and Lee Atwood. Josh is from the Timbula or whatever they called the distillery down there. That one. And Lee's from the Yakin Timbula or somewhere. Anyway, both in Victoria, somewhere around there. And they dared me to wear this. Anyway, here I am. I've got it on, and hopefully they're having a laugh and enjoying their night.
I don't know why you're wearing a sweaty of Crafty, though. It's just uncanny.
Josh is over in Ireland at the moment, and
yes.
I think he's watching it with a few of our colleagues over there, and they'll be having a good laugh at my expense, which is good. So, yeah, there we go. I've done it, boys. Here it is. They know that I like my fried chicken, as you can tell. Well, you don't keep a body like this without eating fried chicken. So,
good news, Robbie. We can't see your body, mate. We've got your head and your shoulders, and that's it. So you're in safe territory.
Good as gold.
All right. Well, let's. I'm going to pour. So, independent bottler, Cooper, owner of distillery. Tell us, where did it all start? What were you doing before you got into this game?
Yeah, I'm busy now. Completely different. Well, I've got to take you back a little while before I explain it. So, I started my life after school in business and sales. So that was my first foray into the working life was sales and business. I sold small electrical appliances into retailers, and then I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and then I became a police officer. I was a copper for 13 years, until in 2018 I broke my back, fractured my back, L4 and L5 vertebrae, and I had to have some surgery. And I was laying in bed, and I was going a bit crazy because I'm not the type of person, as you can tell, that likes to sit still for too long. And my wife Alana said to me, "You need to do something. You're going to be laying around for a while trying to recover, so you need to keep your mind stimulated. You need to do something." I said, "Well, what am I going to do?" I was a bit down in the dumps. And she said, "You need to start writing or something you can do from your position." So the only thing I knew was whiskey. Right. I've been collecting single malt whiskey since I was 17, which I know is illegal, but I got given my first bottle of Ardbeg by my father for my 17th birthday. And then I started collecting single malt whiskey since then. So now I've got, sort of, I don't like to say this number in earshot of my wife, but I probably got 300, 400 bottles of single malt whiskey. And then about, I guess sort of 8 years ago, I decided to start collecting exclusively, 8 to 10 years ago, I started exclusively Australian single malt whiskey or Australian whiskey. And that got me involved and talking to and knowing all the distillers and distillery owners and whatnot, because it's a small, tight-knit community, right? Like our industry. It's a wonderful industry, and I don't even like to call it an industry. I like to call it a community. It's community, and we all help each other, and I got to know everyone. And anyway, so back to 2018, I started writing a blog about Australian whiskey and whiskey news around the world, and it took off. And then I made a website, and the website was so popular that it crashed. And long story short is, after getting to know all the distillers they all had the same issue, and that was finding really good quality casks at a reasonable price with a transparent seller. So I went, well, I'll take my business and sales background and I'll fill this gap, which I did at a time when not everyone was doing it, and I think we've had exponential growth, and it's probably due to the fact that everyone knows with me when you're dealing with barrel brokers or you're dealing with Robbie that you get what's written on the can. Like I am who I am. I don't say things that are what they aren't, and if you have a problem, I fix it, and I'm about So I guess that's resonated with the tight knit community that we're in, and here I am. 6 years on. Barrel Brokers Australasia is now, we've got 3 sites. One, our head office where I am in Lilydale, the Yarra Valley. One up in Corowa, which is where our Cooperage site is, and where John Carberry, that we've bought out from Scotland, is based. And then we've just opened one in New Zealand. So now we're selling into New Zealand as well. So we've grown, like in 6 years, we've grown to a place where now it's a wonderful, thriving, but still local and family-owned business. So, yeah, that's the barrel side of things.
So, okay, question for you then. So how did you build your knowledge with barrels? Drinking whiskey is one thing. Knowing something about wood is a completely different animal altogether. And it's not something you can just pick up quickly. A lot of it is experience, of course. So how did you approach it? Were you quite methodical in your approach?
Yeah, I'm a reader, so I do a lot of learning through reading and a lot of learning through touching and feeling. So whilst I was out at, I'm researching barrels and what makes a good barrel and what makes a good whiskey and how that barrel correlates with the spirit in books. But then also I was in that role of writing. I was in distilleries almost every day. And I was looking at what distillers classed as good barrels and what they classed as non. They weren't getting good results out of. And I just learned through doing. I just worked my way through it, and now we're here. Here we are. We're dealing with the best quality producer of barrels from Spain, the US, France, and all around the world, and our discerning barrel selection and our exclusivity with the suppliers overseas is sort of what sets us apart, I guess.
And you obviously invested time because that's who you are in relationships. So you've built these relationships, forged these relationships. It would have been quite difficult through COVID times, I would imagine, but pre-COVID, were you traveling around much?
Yeah, so pre-COVID was when I was in distilleries, every week. During COVID, it was hard. I remember saying to someone, even at the most recent ADA conference, how wonderful it was just to see people again. So we took a stall at the ADA conference, and it was a great event. It was a fantastic event, well run. And everyone says, the first question everyone asked at that event was, have you got your value out of the event? And I said, for me, it wasn't about value. It wasn't about business value. It was about seeing everyone again. It's so great to have everyone in one room and be able to talk to everyone and see everyone again. It was sort of euphoric. It was amazing. We had great growth during COVID. Obviously, the liquor industry was one of the industries where, I guess it gave people time to level out and actually look at their production. And it also people were at home drinking, so I guess we had a spike in sales. A spike in sales of spirits is obviously a correlation in spike of barrels. So we had growth, but that physical connection between us and the customer, that lacked, and it's great to be back there now. We're really happy that we're out speaking to people and seeing people again, and shaking hands, and it's a good time. It's a good time now, So
Yeah, no, that's good. That's it's you're right about the ADA conference. Yeah, the thing that really hit me was the sense of relief and the sense of energy and optimism. That were the two big takeouts that I took out from the conference. I mean, it was an amazingly run event, and we had a lot of fun. I mean, you talk about conferences, and when you've got alcohol involved, and that's the drive behind the conference, it's good anyway, isn't it?
Oh, there's definitely a positive vibe throughout the whole weekend, so it was good to see.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
it went very, very quickly too. Yeah. So you spent a lot of time, during the conference, meeting new people, or was it mainly catching up with people that you knew and hadn't seen for a while?
It was a really good mix. It was a great mix.
Yeah.
Like we're now like at a stage at a point where we're supplying sort of 200 distilleries and breweries.
Right.
So a lot of the customers that were there were existing customers that it was great to see again that we haven't seen in 2 years. But there was a great deal of new clientele there that were great to just come up and have a chat. Whether they ever buy a barrel from me or not is not. I mean, I guess I guess it should be our prerogative, but really it's just the discussion, and this industry is a love for me. Like to be involved in this is a dream. Every day is a dream. That sounds so cliche. It sounds so cliche, but it is. Like I got a business partner, Barney, that I've known since we're 3 years old, and honestly, I wish he was here because he's more of a realist than I am. I'm sort of a sensationalist, but he's a realist. But there's not too many days I don't look at him and go, "We're living the dream, mate." Like this is great. So it was just good to see people and just talk to them about spirits and about, we were talking about rum and gin and whiskey and brandy and bloody snaps, and it was just, and beer, and it was just great. It was just good to talk to people again face to face and discuss the stuff that we love. The reason why we're in this industry. It was a wonderful event. I really enjoyed myself.
Well, one thing that I find with things like that is, you can have two people that are thinking a different way, but when you start talking and opening up, and they open up, and becomes quite collaborative, new things are created, aren't they? New ideas are created.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course. That's every time that you and me get on the piss, Crafty. Right? There's not too many, we don't come out, every time we get together, we come out with ideas, it's the same with everyone, It's the same with everyone. We always come out with ideas. It's awesome. I love getting to as many events in this community as I can. It's good times, and the world's a bit topsy-turvy at the moment. It's a bit uncertain, but I know where we're going. And when I say we, I'm not talking about Barrel Brokers Australasia. I'm talking about our community, our industry. I know where we're going. It's we're all soaring, and it's good times.
It's I mean, things have changed. The landscape has changed since COVID. The world's changed, obviously, but there's opportunities which have opened up out of it as well, isn't there? You're talking very much about that sort of thing. Just one thing I want to touch on barrels, because you mentioned it, and I'm quite intrigued. So you mentioned brewers. So are you seeing more and more brewers now that are interested in barrel aging beer? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah. So I mean, I know that Aussie craft distillers shooting the shit isn't the time or place to get really technically businessy.
Yeah.
But I guess at to answer your question really quickly, is that I guess probably breweries and barrel aged beer is our largest growth corridor, our quickest and largest growth corridor.
Yeah, right.
There's there's 3 to 1. Yeah, we talk about this. People say there's a lot of distilleries around. There's 3 to 4 to 1 breweries to every distillery, and a lot of them are doing barrel aged beers, which I love personally. I'm a big fan of a barrel aged imperial stout or something like that. So it's great. It's a passion, but it's also a massive growth corridor.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. That's what, a market that we can do. I guess at Barrel Brokers, we don't tend to. Well, so far we haven't got involved too heavily in the winery market in that space. Spirits is my sort of where I have my most knowledge. I have a little bit of knowledge around brewery and beer. And despite the fact that I come from a family of winemakers or winery owners and winemakers, spirits has always been my forte. So that's where I sort of stick in that known. So that, I guess it was probably detrimental to us at the start, but now it's shone through in the relationship we made for staying out of that space.
Yeah.
And breweries is going to be a large part of our business going forward, definitely.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's good. You got multiple streams there, so it's good. Hey, it looks like we've got a Scotsman on the screen.
Is he back?
Let's grab him quick.
You there, John?
Well, I've actually plugged the hardwire into the back of my wife's computer this time. I've been bouncing about the place, so hopefully I'll not get kicked off. But I'll tell everybody who I am. I'm obviously John Carr, as the name says there. I'm a third generation Cooper, and going back to my grandfather, back to the early 1900s. So there's my grandfather taught my uncle taught my cousin taught me, and I taught my brother. So it's a bit of a family affair. Every member of my family's worked in the whisky industry or still works in the whisky industry now. My father was a warehouse manager, and my brother's, as I say, is a Cooper. The only person in my family that's kind of strayed away from the Cooper is my son. He's a coppersmith, so he makes the stills. He followed my father-in-law into the craft. So I says to him, "You make the stills, I'll make the barrels, and we'll open my distillery, son." And he says, "Well, right, Dad." So here I am. I got asked by Robbie to come over a couple of years ago, and obviously this virus thing slowed things down quite a bit. But I'm here now, looking forward to what the future brings. Loads of barrels, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, not hopefully, there will be. So I'm just looking. We've just did some interviews for some people at the moment to try and get some people on board. Looking to take on quite a few apprentices, train a lot of people, and try and help the distillers out there, all these guys.
Yeah. What's the cooperage that you're working with?
It'll be Murray River Cooperage, based right next door to Carroa Distillery. Once we get that up and running, we'll be servicing a lot of the distilleries and wineries round in anywhere that'll take barrels from us or casks from us. So, as I said earlier on, I hope to train quite a few apprentices, bring some new coopers into the equation, something that you sorely need over here from what I'm been seeing. So it's all going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. I mean, and you've come on the scene when, there's a lot of activity, a lot of growth. I mean, we've got more distilleries than Scotland, I hear. Haven't had anyone challenge that one yet. Have you, Robbie? No.
Sorry, buddy. I had a problem with my earbuds, but no, I haven't. I'd probably believe it. I think we're up to over 400 now. Well over 400. Yeah.
Well over 400, yeah. But we still we produce less than what Scotland spills on the floor. That's always the line that we're told, isn't it?
Well, they're not wrong.
No, you're producing really good spirit, really good whiskey over here because of your temperature changes and whatnot. You're bringing really good quality whiskey in a shorter space of time to the forefront, because the whiskies I've tasted here so far are really good for the age statement that goes with them. They're quite impressive. So, as I said earlier on, I'm looking forward to working my way around all the Australian distilleries. It's going to take me a while, but I'm looking forward to tasting them all because I like a dram.
Might be putting in a few lead passes there, Robbie.
Oh, that's okay. We're looking at doing a well, we're not looking at doing. We are going to do a travelling cooperage service. So I have no doubt he'll probably visit more than half of them.
Yeah,
It'd be good.
So
There's
what was
a question off the floor?
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Just going to John. So I'll just bring it up. It's from Bill.
Yep.
So how many apprentices do you plan to take on?
Well,
None is needed.
I've taught over 25 apprentices. I've helped teach over 25 apprentices over the last 18 years. So we're hoping to take on quite a lot. Obviously, we're going to do it in phases. We've not actually sat down and spoke, but we're planning on taking on a couple of guys pretty shortly, maybe 3, and then we're going to do it in stages. Because if you take on too much, it dilutes the process. So usually about 3 or 4 to start, and then get them to a certain level where their competency gets better. Then you can take on another 2, say, and then you work in the 2 at a time phase, and then you can use the older apprentices in the equation, and it's all about kind of teach them the new apprentices so much. And then you would repair a barrel at a certain part, and you would say, right, finish it, to get them to think about the process instead of doing it from start to finish all the time. Just fling things in like halfway through or 3/4 of the way through to get them thinking, and then you would pass things on through the age statements of the apprentice that are there. So at one time I've had 12 apprentices at one time, and I can do it. It can be done. But you need 100% commitment for them, and it's not going to be easy. There's a lot to remember. There's a lot to digest. As you know, Cooper's been a closed shop for many, many years, but it's a shame. Now it's getting to the point where all the secrets are getting shared now. Can't keep any secrets. Go to pass this on, or it's lost forever. So there's a lot of good information that I've got, that I've learned. I've been doing it in the trade for 32 years, and I'm still learning, but there's a lot of things that I need to pass on and make sure that it doesn't disappear. I've worked with some really good coopers in the industry, brewery coopers, distillery coopers, and the guy I was working with recently down in Yorkshire, Alistair Sims, and another gentleman, Jonathan Mamby, and David Poulter. David worked for Sam Smith's for 42 years, and Alistair worked for Theakston's and Wadworth's, and so I got to know the brewery side of it a wee bit. There's not much a difference between brewing and distilling. The barrel sizes are different, but the knowledge that they had, and they've given me a lot of literature going back to like the early 1900s and everything. I know this might not seem relevant, but it's small snippets of really useful needs to be kept and passed on, and skill sets. So hopefully I'll get the opportunity and we can find some good candidates out there.
Well, it's
not for everyone.
No, it's not. It's much needed in the industry. I mean, you talk to a couple other coopers in Australia, and they're all preaching the same thing, that need to invest in structure and apprenticeships for the future, because if we don't have good wood, we don't make good whiskey. Simple as that.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer, Crafty. As I've said, as you know, I've been involved in the process of bringing the cooperage apprentices back. For the last 2 years, I've been banging that drum, both state and federal parliaments. I know you and I have talked about this in depth at those nights up at Dean's Joint. But I've been banging that drum so hard with state and local parliament, because at the end of the day, we've increased from 2018 having 150, 200 distilleries, and we've doubled that, in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
most of the, a majority of them are making brown spirits, and the politicians say, or the legatories say that if you want to produce brown spirits, whether it's whiskey, rum, or brandy, that it has to be aged in a barrel for 2 years. Well, how are we securing this? How are we securing those barrels, right? So, about 12 months ago, I put my business cap on and started talking to these parliamentarians and saying to them, well, what sort of revenue does our excise tax bring to you per year, right?
Yeah.
You got to speak to them in terms they know. We looked at those numbers and we said, well, what happens if that disappears? Well, why would it disappear? Well, because the law says that we have to age it for 2 years in a barrel, right? Well, what happens if those barrels disappears? And they will. They will, I guarantee you. I'm a barrel salesman. Well, too. If we don't train more coopers, if there's no one making barrels here, they will disappear. They will. America is struggling to supply now. French oak, France is struggling to supply. We are not in the 80s. We're not in the 90s. We're in 2022. And if we don't secure our own future here, right, you can kiss the excise tax goodbye, because there's not going to be people producing, because they can't produce it. They can't age it. So, and they really sat up straight in their chairs when you start talking figures, and they go, oh, shit, okay, how are we going to fix this?
Yeah.
Right? And this is what helped get John here. There were struggles during COVID. And then we got the apprenticeship scheme reinstated into the furniture making. Well, it's not an apprenticeship, but it's a certificate within the furniture making apprenticeship. And now we're still beating the drum, getting it standalone. It needs its own standalone apprenticeship. That's all there is to it. We need coopers. And I think, I know, eventually we're going to get it over the line, and we're going to keep pushing until we do. And to answer Bill's question, we'll take as many coopers as we can, because we want to secure this industry. We love this industry, as I've said from the start, and we don't want to see any gap in the supply chain. We want everyone to thrive. So we're going to do everything we can from start to finish to make sure that we can get as many coopers and trained as we can. So that's all there is to it.
Yep.
And you also mentioned
it's a long
going mobile as well.
Yes, of course.
Which would be very attractive, because majority of distilleries are in rural locations. And decentralized. So
of course. I mean, it's a logical step. It's a logical step, right? For too long, and I'll never say a bad word about anyone, whether it's my competitors or my friends, right? But for too long, we've been sending barrels from regional New South Wales, regional Victoria, or Sydney, or over to the Barossa to be coopered. It's been too long, right? Freight charges now are crazy. That's enough's enough, right? So let's capture that local market and help people. Just help. If we can get out there and a repair cast on site, and we can save your freight there and back, then we'll do it. Obviously, no one's in business to lose money. You're not. I'm not. No one is. So it has to be cost effective to everyone. But that's a service we're absolutely wanting to provide. And also, moreover, the bridging that gap between distiller and cooper. Teaching you the skills you need to be able to repair the leaking cask that you have at the time. So you're not. So you're not losing product until we can get there and we can repair it properly. John can get there and shave out staves and replace staves or headboards or whatnot. You can fix it so that you lose the minimum amount of product that you can until we can get there. We want to bridge that gap.
Wow.
The trailer is in the process of being constructed at the moment for the on the road repairing and stuff like that. So we're just about there. Yeah,
the mobile cooperage. John is fitting it out as we speak.
Yeah, I'm in the process of fitting the trailer up just now. But even back in Scotland, it was good to get the apprentices out of school now again. They go out and they meet they go to the different sites, the repair casks in the warehouse or old spirit stores and different sites and whatnot. So it was good for them to get out and learn a little bit different, doing it on the road and repairing putting new heads in casks that were full of whiskey, standing upright without losing any content. It was all quite interesting to show them this kind of thing. It's not the kind of thing they would learn in the apprentice school. So there's a whole diverse system that.
Yes.
Right.
It's
School.
very, very comprehensive. So, John, how did Robbie get in touch with you, or vice versa? And
John's dropped off again.
He's back.
Oh no, he's back.
He's back.
He's back.
Oh, you there? You there, John? Yeah.
That's losing his signal again. Even though I'm hardwired in, there's clearly something wrong with the internet.
Yeah, we can hear you. So.
Yeah, we can hear you. So yeah. So how did you two get together, Robbie and you, and how did Robbie entice you to come out? I mean, it's a long way to come, as you well know. And for a couple of years you couldn't come out.
Well, I was just actually surfing the net one night. I was on Instagram and I got a message from Robbie saying, "Do you not fancy coming to help us opening a cooperage and stuff?" And I was like, "Aye, that's if the wife was for it, I'd be right here there now." And my wife said, "Well, just you go across and send me back your wages." I says, "No," I says, "Obviously, if I was going to do something, I wouldn't do it without you." And she says, "Well, I think you should go for it because I think it'll be a really good adventure." So that was the start. That's fun. And with the help of Robbie and Dean and all the boys, they've been amazing to get us over here. Treated us amazingly, and I'm very humbled to be sitting here at the moment and talking to you, and hopefully being part of the Australian distilling and future, and working with you all, preparing casks for you sometime in the future.
And you arrived just recently, so as we were talking about before we went live, originally you were coming out 2 years ago. And you were gonna hit the deck, and it would have been temperatures in Cora. What do you reckon, Robbie? 40 high 40s?
45. Yeah, from when we put the visa application in, and we thought that he was going to actually be wheels up and land here. We thought he was going to land at like the peak of summer in Corowa. We thought he was going to land here from -2 degrees in Scotland and land in 45 degrees. In the middle of New South Wales heat wave, so it would have been a really quick learning bell curve.
That would have been quite an experience. I don't think I've ever been in that type of heat, but it'll be interesting when the summer comes round. Anyway, I'll have factor 95
coming, buddy.
on.
It's coming. It's coming.
At least I'm slowly. It's like when the old saying, if you fling a frog into boiling water, it'll jump back out again. But if you just sit at it and you simmer him and get him up to the temperature, he'll just sit there. So I'll take my wee while to get used to it, I think.
You reckon you're going to be a slow poach, do you?
Aye. But I'll have plenty of whiskey.
With that head, I don't reckon it's going to be slow.
That'll be interesting. Aye. So, and plus, if you're firing casks and you're charring casks, that'll make it interesting as well with that heat.
Oof, yeah.
But it's like that back in a couple of cooperages I've worked in Scotland where it was tin roofs, and they used to actually paint the roofs black with bitumen to stop them from leaking. And it was quite a low roof. And in the summertime, the coopers used to just have their leather apron on, a pair of shorts, and their boots. That was it. The sweat was pouring off you, and then you had fires to the side of you with 10-foot flames, 3 of them belting the heat out all day. But it was just one of the things, you just had to sweatband on and just get on with it.
Yeah, it's a different world, isn't it, Robbie?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it is. Yeah, like we were talking about, John landed on a Monday or Sunday, and we flew to Sydney on the Wednesday or something. I took him out of his comfort zone. We just jumped straight on another plane.
Yeah.
And I took him up to Sydney. And on the plane right over there, I was just talking about, we were just talking about our differences and the difference between the UK and Australia and differences in language. And I'd just come back from the US. we're talking about subtle differences. It's all the same. We're all the same breed. We're all humans, and we all build the same. But there's just subtle. It's just everything's subtle differences, right?
Yeah.
That's what I learned from the US. It was like, oh, okay, right, that's how you do things. It's sort of the same, but not. It's sort of like home, but it isn't. It's we're not too dissimilar. But when I got John involved in a group chat with my brother, who's a fabricator, we're trying to get him to tool up some machinery for us, and John was banging on about something, and I knew that my brother Michael would have no idea what he was talking about, so I sort of translated for him and said, "This is what he means." I was lucky enough to work with a lot of Scottish and Irish people in my last job.
That's what
so
we're saying
I
earlier
sort
on.
of
I tend to,
understand the
when I
lingo.
text message or write messages on my phone, I write them Scottish phonetics. I write them exactly how it sounds like to me. There's a message. Do you need? We need you. Exciting times for all. Do you still do the Cooper's induction at the end of the apprenticeship? Cheers from the Barossa. Well, I was talking to a gentleman about that earlier on today. I think the company I worked for, they ended up Diageo. They stopped all of that. They said it was a health and safety issue, but Speyside Cooperage in Scotland still do it. But over here, yep, the apprentices are getting it. Yep. It's good. If it's part and parcel of the experience, why not? You've got to keep your tradition in some part. It's a small part of the tradition, which makes it fun.
Doesn't have something to do with Todd, is it?
Well, tarred and feathered was the old saying, yeah, but it's just basically remnants from the day's production, sawdust and water, and some of the, you get some of the byproducts from the distillation process, and just flinging it over a head and making a noise and rolling them about the floor and giving them a dram at the end of it. Yeah, it still gets done, as I say, in Scotland with some cooperages, but as I say, it becomes a health and safety issue with some of the bigger players, and they're just too frightened in case somebody puts a claim in. So, but I would like I'd like to keep that.
I have to prompt a story. I'm going to do your job, Todd and Crafty, and prompt a story from John that he told me on the plane flight over to Sydney about. So what I obviously I knew John and I had been in contact with his employee for the last 2 years. We're trying to get him over here. I know everything about him, but I didn't realize how little he was. He's quite short, until I met him, and anyway. But he was telling me, so that's a segue into telling that story about when you're on the butts line and you had to ask to go over to the ASBs because you couldn't quite reach.
Well, the butts are 1.3 meters and I'm only 5'4", so I can repair them. It's not a problem. I just can't repair them as fast as the bigger boys, the taller laddies. But I used to always have a wee aluminium step under my bench that I'd just drag out, and I would stand on it. So I could add the cask standing up instead of having to pull this 20-stone cask over and lean it against my bench and then adds it and then stand it back up. So if I could do as little as possible as in the physical moving of the cask, and the boys were all slagging me, but I'm finishing before you, so I reckon what the problem is.
That's right, mate. Adapt and overcome. Overcome.
Yeah, that's it. I just say to him, look, this is the gaffer, look, I'm getting too old for this, pulling these things around, doing PBR. I says, can I go into the SB shop and get in? He says, aye, no bother, it was fine. And they let us go across there, and we just get, even although I'm not as fast as most of the other laddies, and the younger boys, they just fly right past you. But I would try and do about 25 a day, and these guys, the younger boys, are doing 35 and 40 barrels a day repairs. And
the moral of the story is, gents, that we've got a hard-working man now that's been on the ASB line, and if you want to know something about bourbon barrels that Barrel Brokers is bringing in, and we've got them, right? We've got them in plentiful amounts, and if you want to know something about them that John doesn't know, then it's not worth knowing, right? So any distillers that are watching, if you want, you know where to buy your bourbon barrels from, and if you want to know an expert point of view from someone that's worked on them for 35 years in the largest area of use in the world, producing the most whiskey, then get on to John, because there's no answer he can't give you.
Cool.
Yeah, I've repaired them all from bottle-sized casks right up to butts and bodega butts, port pipes. I've repaired them all and made a living out of it. I've spent most of my career. I worked in a cooperage called Cash Bridge Cooperage, which was a rebuild line where the ASBs would come across flat pack and we'd rise them back up again and enlarge them to 55-gallon, 250-litre hogsheads, put new heads in them and new hoop iron and whatnot. And we kind of went away from that because the amount of casks that was in the system needed rejuvenated. So then it went to rejuvenation of all casks of all sizes, removing the heads, shaving them, toasting them, charring them, putting the heads back in, sealing them, all that kind of thing. So it's been, I've basically been in an industry where it's all bonus or fast moving repairs, where there's time scales and that, but the quality can't suffer. So you've got to basically still put out good quality casks, but you've got to do it quicker than your average cooperage. So you learn a lot quicker doing it that way.
I just realised that a lot of people listening, John, I just realised a lot of people listening, John, won't know what an ASB is. So an ASB is an American Standard Barrel or a bourbon or a first use bourbon barrel, right? Just clearing that up for people. ASBs are an American Standard Barrel or a first use bourbon barrel.
And 200 litres?
Yeah, they're the most common now anyway because of the flavour profile everybody's looking for. Years ago, it was Diageo or other companies, Edgington Group, and that they wouldn't really. They would use ASBs, but they would also use hogsheads because it wasn't so intense. It all depends on what the distiller or the brewer wants, or usually the distiller is the one that dictates the flavour profile, and he's the guy that. So if he comes up to me and says, I want a cask to produce this this is the spirit, so I'm wanting a cask with this toast, this char, can you give me it at that, please, and duplicate it 100 times and all that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, we need the distiller needs us. We've got to work hand in hand.
Yeah, no, very, very, very much so. I mean, the relationship between a distiller and a cooper is very important. And the information flows both ways. That's been my experience in the past, is giving feedback back to cooperer. And I imagine, for the larger operations too, consistency, and you could probably comment on this too, Robbie. Consistency of barrels. That's what they're looking for. I mean, the likes of me, small, and others that are very, very small. It's a number of individual barrels, but if you're putting an order in for like 50 barrels, 100 barrels, or whatever, you want consistency in those barrels. So that must present challenges.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess when it comes to the supply side, I'll let John answer on the cooperage side in a second. But when it comes to the supply side, that's why we do what we do in regards to exclusivity of supply. That's our main. Barrel Brokers has that philosophy with everyone. We got exclusivity of supply from our partner cooperage over in Spain, J.R. Rodriguez, and the reason why we do that is because we know what we're going to get every single time, right? It's the consistency.
Yeah,
it's quality has to be first and foremost, right? But we have to know that we have the consistent quality, and it's the same with our supply partners in the US. We worked through 4, 5, 6 different options, and we found the one that we knew that was going to consistently give us the best quality barrels. And we can look our customers, the clients in the eyes now and say, listen, you're going to get the best. And if there's one slips through the cracks, which shouldn't, but if it does, then we'll fix it for you and we'll get you a new one. And we can do that because we know that our consistency of supply is there. And we do that through our exclusive partnerships. We work really hard on it. It's something that I'm big on. If we deal with someone, we want to know it's exclusive, and we're going to have constant supply, and we can offer everyone what they want when they need it, or within a reasonable time. At the moment, it's harder. it's harder now
I'm
than
going
it
to
has been.
say you're
ever,
finding it
but-
difficult at the moment.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Especially out of, Spain as well. Our partner, J.R. Rodriguez, we could place an order with them in 2019 or 20, and have containers on the water within 2 weeks and have them here within 8 weeks. Right now, that's out to something. That window of production, because they produce on order, which is good because it ensures quality, right? The quality and freshness. And that's out to sort of 4 months, So if we ordered now, it'd be 4 months' time. Is that going to continue to happen? No, I don't think so. The world will reset itself and we'll get back, but that's what it is for now. The US, the new oak market out of the US is crazy timelines, but we work around it. It is what it is. I know that's another cliche saying, but that's the way we just roll. We're just realists. It is what it is. We got to do what we can do. We'll find you some alternatives if we can't get you in now. And but when you get it, the consistency and quality is going to be there. That's all that matters to us.
It just goes to show you what a couple of bad winters and a bottle shortage can do. Obviously, the COVID didn't help. But I asked the question. I says, "What's going on here?" Because you would see a Cuba oak for like £3,500 going up to 5, 6. Then God, it's going absolutely ridiculous, and it's getting to the point where is it actually financially worth getting casks made, because the profit margin is getting less and less and less. But in America, they're starting to keep a lot of casks, like your Brown and Foreman, and there's a Heaven Hill and Buffalo Trace. And that. They're keeping all their casks in house now. They're not letting any go. So there's like 7% of the world market right away. It's stopped, and that's the flavour everybody was asking for, Heaven Hill and Buffalo Trace, because of the flavour profile the casks are. So people are looking at alternatives.
That's a really interesting point to touch on, to explain to everyone. I think the viewers, would love to know about what happened in America, which is tightened up the supply of bourbon barrels. I want to preface this by saying that we still, honestly, we have a constant supply of bourbon barrels, good quality bourbon barrels from the main suppliers or the main distilleries in America, right? But let's talk about why it happened, because it's really interesting. 2 terrible winters. Corn crops were bad, barley crops were bad. All the crops were terrible. So the production was really low. Yields were really low. And then there was a massive glass shortage in China. So your makers, Mark Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, were physically not dumping barrels for months, waiting for bottles. You've got Buffalo Trace that have gone offline. Now they're using all of their barrels internally because they've opened a agave distillery and a rum distillery, so they're using all their barrels for that. There's 1/3 of the market gone. It's just it was the perfect storm. The perfect storm for a short supply. Scotland still needs their bourbon supply. Regardless of what the America's emptying, they still need it. We still want to drink good quality, affordable whiskey. So they need to be first preference, and I understand that. I don't begrudge it. But there's been a slight price increase on the stock, and then that coupled with, an exponential increase in freight prices. Our bourbon barrel price has gone up $100, per barrel, and that was, and we sold bourbon barrels for $100 less than we are now for years and years and years and years. And there's no price rise. And I can tell you, there's no margin in it. We're not making. In fact, we've lost margin on our bourbon barrel selling at $100 more, and it's just most of that comes from freight. International freight is. It's not only is it hit or miss. You get rolled for container spaces on ships. International freight providers are selling to the highest bidder. It's just. The international freight's the killer, and that's where all the price rise is. I'll try and explain. Everyone gets it, No one's been, like I looked at it originally and went, "Shit, we're gonna have to go up $100," and I was really, I was really I was horrified, and I was, because this is my family, this industry or this community is my family. I thought, shit, $100. How are we going to cope with that? No one's really blinked an eye. I'll be honest with you, and especially when we explain to the people that do balk a little bit that we're taking a bit of a hit to get them to go. Honestly, it's just the way of the world, and when things do correct themselves, and I hope they do, we'll pass that on. But at the moment, this is the world. Fuel's gone up, gas has gone up, and we're getting rolled for spaces, and there's just 2 bad winters in America. Like it is. That's what happens. So that's a really interesting point that I think is really it was a really good learning piece for everyone. That's what happened and why. And when you explain it to them, everyone goes, "Yeah, right, okay, I understand." Yeah.
Well, just to your point, my understanding is, in America, in bourbon in particular, they've got to go into new American oak barrels, and that's by law. They're actually now looking at that legislation and questioning it and saying, well, do we need to change that legislation? Which then means if they don't have to go into new American, freshly charred barrels, they can go into secondary barrels, and that would put even more stress on the supply chain, wouldn't it, Robbie?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely it would. It'd probably kill our supply overnight. If the question was, do I think that's going to happen? I don't think it will.
Yeah,
you've got 3 very, very large cooperages over there that supply the bulk amount of new oak barrels to the bourbon industry in the US. And as you said, everyone has to go into a new oak barrel. The thing is that they own the forests. It's not like here. Where we get logging licenses, they actually own their wood and they own the forest. So they've got a financial interest in making sure that bourbon only goes into first fill. So, yeah, to answer your question that you asked and one that you didn't, yes, it would hurt us. It absolutely would. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't. There's a bit of noise about it. I don't think it will happen.
Yeah,
the noise has been about for quite a few years, actually. I remember hearing about that when I started my apprenticeship. They were talking about that, but I don't think it will. They're using different types of oak, mind you. There is some mixtures of oaks that get mixed in because they're getting short. I mean, the people that own the forests, some of them are just sitting on the laurels and going, I'll just wait till the price goes way up, and they're going to make a few bucks. But they're sitting. They're sitting pretty at the moment in the over in America, but even some of the big players in Scotland have been told you're not getting anywhere near what you want. You're only getting about a third of what you ask for. So some of the big players they're struggling as well. So it's not just Australia; it's everywhere, And the fact that the French government they own their forests, the Spanish government own their forests. And the French decided, but you're producing far too much barrels, you're doing too quick. So they kind of held casks back. So then it was, a lot of people started to go to Hungary for the oak. The Spanish are obviously governed by the government and how they only allow so many trees out every year. So it's a delicate balance. But there's enough oak trees in America to last at least 2 generations minimum. There's plenty of oaks. Oak trees, but they're planting like crazy in some places, and the average oak tree grows twice as fast over there than it does, say, over here. So over in Scotland, kind of thing. It does grow quicker depending on the climate. So you're talking they've reduced it down to like 70 years to chop a tree down now. It never used to be like that, but that's how things are going. So if they're planting if they use the
sorry, you go. Oh, okay. I'll answer Jim's. I'm just reading Jim's question.
I think there's still a.
Hi, Robbie. Can your ex-bourbon barrels sit too long in storage prior to refilling? I guess the answer to that is yes, they can sit. I think what Jim's asking is sort of how long do we allow, and how long do we recommend? Having a bourbon barrel sitting too long in storage would be a luxury at the moment. We can barely even get them to land here in containers before they're sold. trying to hold stock is the issue. But yes, absolutely, bourbon barrels can land and sit too long. The ideal situation is if you can't fill a bourbon barrel straight away, put it in the closest conditions to a wine cellar or out of wind and direct heat. I'll let John speak further on that, but any barrels that we do get the luxury of sitting for a long time, he's also in charge of our quality assurance. So if they've been sitting for for a number of weeks, and he'll check them and make sure they're okay before they go out. But I'll let him talk about the conditions best to store a bourbon barrel in if you buy it and can't fill it for, say, a month or so.
Yeah, it's just keep, obviously, like Robbie was saying, it all depends on the temperature. At certain times of year, it becomes harder to do. But the wind, believe it or not, dries a cask out quicker than the heat. So you're better put water inside your cask, at least a good 2 litres, depending. If you're not going to use it for a while, you need to make sure and rotate your casks. Don't just leave them sitting on their side or on their end for weeks and weeks. You've got to rotate your stock. Make sure that the inside of the cask, all of it, is constantly moist. If they're in a warehouse, dampen the floor down with water enough to increase the humidity. I do know that they use humidifiers in the warehouses that they store the casks in America, just in the hot weather kind of thing, just enough to keep the moisture. So you've got a bit of moisture on the outside, and you've definitely got moisture on the inside, at least minimum couple of litres. Because when they fill the casks nowadays, when they empty the casks, they fill them full of hot water to then draw out the in drink, and then they use that. They put the casks away in a warm environment, and then they bring them back, and some more of the bourbon will have come out the wood mixed with the water, and then they use that then to water down what came out the cask in the first place.
All right.
So what they're doing then is that they'll put some more water in them before they put them in the container. Because if they're going to sit in a container for minimum 6 weeks, depending on where they're going, and if they're sitting out in direct heat, it's sometimes when you open that back door of that container, and then that rush of strong alcohol bourbon smell hits you. And very rare cases the cask will leak because the moisture in there is so high inside the cask, and they are sweating, so it causes a lot of humidity inside the container. So that and then acts like a steam box, and it keeps them tight. But I was told by my journeyman, the cask we emptied the discording unit, if you're going to sit it outside, if you left it any more than what he said in the summertime, 24 hours. If you left it on any more than 24 hours, all bets were off. In the winter time, you could get away with it a bit more. You could stand it up, you put a wee drop of water in it, put water on the end. The weather would do, the rain would do that. With Scotland being so rainy, if it could do the rest, you get away with it for weeks and weeks. But then you get to a point where if the water sits in it too long, it gets stagnant, and it starts to turn. So obviously rotate your stock, make sure that your cask with water in it is warmed up, and make sure that it's constantly getting a soak down, and you'll be fine. You'll get longer with it. It doesn't last inevitably. It's just gets to the point where people like myself have got to take the hoops in, got to hand harden them and compress them a wee bit. It's unfortunate, but that's when it sits for a long time. Yeah, I'd maybe say about a month to 2 months. You get away with it, depending at certain times of the year, water in, keeping them damp. I wouldn't in this climate anyway. Like Robbie says, to have casks sitting that long would be a novelty kind of thing. But if you're going to purchase casks and you're not going to use them in the immediate future, and you're going to purchase them for the sake of just buying them, you're going to have to put up with some failures if you don't maintain your cask properly, rotate your stock. So it's all doing the planning.
Talking about the opening the containers that John just touched on, I just want to tell you another little anecdotal bloody story. We imported some genuine Caribbean or Jamaican Jamaican rum casks,
right,
from one of the largest producers over there in Jamaica. We can't say their name, but if you Google the largest producer in Jamaica, you'll find out. It's really funny that they use high ester or really high cuts in their rum.
Yeah.
And I found out on my trip over to the US that actually started during the time where they were at war with the UK, and they're actually trying to poison people over in the UK, and they were making it really high ester count rum, and they thought that it would kill them. Anyway, it didn't kill them, and they loved it, and they thought, shit, this is profitable. So they kept these high cuts. I got a full container load of them. Had a group of 5 blokes there, like I do when every time there's a container come in. We opened the doors, and no joke, I said to the guys, go down the street, get a coffee, get a croissant or something. And we had to literally walk away from this container for an hour to let it. If you had have walked in there, the vapors, you would have passed out. It was beautiful, fresh as you can get. Jamaican rum cast, and it was
Nice.
It was a great experience. But that's how like these boxes they stay so moist and so it's funny what a container does. Keeping barrels inside a shipping container, you could probably keep them in there for such a long time because they're just so the climate in there is so perfect for barrels, and it blew my mind having to step away from this thing going, I'm going to pass out if I stand close to this thing for too long, and we had to actually go down and get some smoko. So there you go.
Smoko, yeah. John, smoko is a term. It doesn't mean...
Yeah, I'm getting used to that.
we were talking about
I'm trying to get used to that.
Yeah, the terminology smoko. It sort of implies everyone smokes. It's a dedicated break.
I don't smoke. Yeah, but believe it or not, at this point where we're at in 2022, and we've grown over the last. I'm still emptying containers. I'm still there. I'm still with the guys. And I'm not on the forklift. That's Barney gets on the forklift. He's a lazy. Anyway, but I'm still hauling barrels out and loading them on, and it's a job. You know what I say? I say it's a job that I can complete. That's what I say to my wife, Alana, who's also, runs the business with me. It's a job that I complete. I get to work in the morning and I have 30 emails, and when I go home at night, I have 40, right? It'll never end. Emptying a container, I get to complete it, and it's good. I enjoy it.
It's satisfying. It's physical work too, isn't it?
It is.
Work,
so I still do it, and I think even if we grew to a point where John was there in Corowa and we had the site in New Zealand and we're employing 500 people or whatever, I'd still be on the end of a container unloading. I love container days. Yeah.
Yeah. The only problem is you'd have 150 emails at the end of the day on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to work on distributing my emails to other places, but that's okay. We'll get there. You
just go to the top and go delete. Just delete 10. It just takes the load off. If it's really important, they'll write back.
Anyone that's sitting here listening to this going, oh, this is this guy that took 10 days to reply to me will now know why.
He's mucking around in containers.
Yeah, that's right.
You talk about...
We've just hit the hour mark, so...
All right. Okay, just at the hour mark. There's a little ding-ding. Yeah, John, I'll tell you a little story I had with barrels. I had these 225 barrique barrels, and I didn't have anywhere to put them in the shed. They weren't. I wasn't going to fill them straight away, so I put them outside, and thought they'll be okay out there. It was fairly cool. A bit of rain, as you said, so I thought they'll be good. Anyway, go back a couple of weeks later and look at them, and there's these big holes in the wood, big holes, and it was like someone had a drill bit, right, and it drilled holes in the barrels. So I went, freaking hell, what's going on here? And then I saw a little beetle come out, and it was a wood borer. And what I'd done is unbeknownst to me, I'd set the barrels close to some old ironbark wood planks. They're just sitting outside for
old sleepers.
Yeah, they're sleepers. Actually, you're right, they're sleepers. And so the bugs wanted fresh wood, and they destroyed the cast. Sleepers, actually, you're right, sleepers. And
Oh,
So I'm shaking my
Yeah,
head
yeah,
Bill,
this-
because I know the story. They were good casts that we sacrificed to
Yep.
bugs.
Oh no, no good.
that's right. Sometimes you get the wine cask with the wooden hoops on them, the hickory hoops on them, and the chestnut hoops on them as well, and that's to stop them from eating the oak. It's the aroma that comes off the chestnut hoops entices them to eat the hoops instead of the cask.
All right.
Yeah, that's but a lot of the times when you do where the head goes into the crows, that's the thinnest part of where the spirit you get your angel share or your evaporation comes from. So
Right.
this is where a lot of the borers go. They go right in that wee sharp piece, and it's really hard to fix a leaker in there if it's a perfectly drilled hole caused
Right.
by the beetle. You've usually got to use, I think, like a brug. It's called. We call it. It's like a spike, and you hammer it right in, and you've got to put a wooden spile in. But finding the holes is bad enough. But to have borers, I've seen casts like in Scotland if you're repairing a cask that's got woodworm in it, you've got to remember the woodworm's eating into the cask, and it's basically passing as it's eating the wood that's out its backside's coming the sawdust, so it's blocking the hole behind it. So as the years go, you fill a cask, and you'll see a wee spout of whiskey or spirit coming out, and then you'll go like that, and you'll plug it up, and you'll notice another one, and then you go like you plug it up, and then you'll notice another one. So there might be the most plugs I've put in a cask is about 15, 16, and it was just because you couldn't see the holes because the sawdust had blocked it up, but just to me changing and the pressure building up, blew another one, blew another one, blew another one. But they're quite common. And I remember getting told a story because with the wine cask, when we started buying a lot of wine casks over in Scotland, and Carntyne at the time were complaining that they had to replace all the floors on the inside of the back of their lorries because they were completely rotten and eaten away by the wood borers.
Wow. Okay, so it's not unique to us.
Aye.
It is a major problem out there. Okay.
Well, it's got that way because obviously the wine casks at one point a lot of Scotland was buying a lot of wine casks because the bourbon cask was quite expensive. So they thought, we'll go with the wine. But what you tend to find is in the whiskey industry, a lot of the wine casks, they do produce amazing flavours, but they're not robust enough to take the hustle and bustle of getting through all the big spirit stores and bashing against each other, and the breakers, the broken casks just they break really easily. And obviously in France, wherever when they make the casks, they're like furniture and they treat them nice and gentle and they're careful. But in the whiskey industry in Scotland, a lot of it's like, get the barrels out, get them filled, and they're bashing and getting smacked off other casks, and their lifespan gets reduced. French oak is like, as you know yourself, you've ever pulled a French oak cask over compared to an American oak, the weight difference can be near enough half. It's a beautiful wood and it produces amazing flavours, but as in being robust, it's quite low on the scale of strength.
Yeah, I remember the first time in Scotland seeing barrels being rolled off lorries onto mattresses, a couple of piled up mattresses.
Yep.
And first time I saw it, I thought, holy hell, it'll just come apart. But they're robust.
Still do that.
We do them on the tractor tires, Crafty.
Yeah.
When they come off the back of flat tray semis, onto a tractor tire.
Yeah.
And hope they don't bounce.
You've got to make sure they land directly on their side, mind you. But I remember one time the Carntyne boy rolling a cask out from the top, and a lot of the casks were end fills. So sometimes when the machine that sucks out the whiskey doesn't quite get it all, because by the time from the bottom of the pipe, which can be 4 foot long, then you've got the pipe that snakes all the way up to the valve. So the amount of spirit or whiskey that's held between the valve and the bottom of the pipe, when it stops sucking, it falls all the way back in. But there must have been a definite big flaw. And I can remember the Carntyne boy shoving this barrel at the back of the lorry, and it hit the mat and it just stopped dead. And I went, was that one full? And he was like, well, it felt like there was something in it. And it was 3/4 full of bourbon. That just had to get poured down the drain.
Oh God.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pouring whiskey down the drain.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I worked in the cooperage in Scotland, in average every cask, you were probably getting at least about a litre, maybe 2 litres in some of them, the bourbon, just because it sweats in the back of the container. It takes so long. So every ASB I was opening up it was full, like loads of it, and it was all over the floor. And on average, there was about, the cooperage was putting out about 1,000 casks a week repaired. So you can imagine if every cask's got at least a couple of litres of water, bourbon in it, and it's just going all over the floor because you can't drink it. You're not allowed to put it in a bottle. No, used to years ago, because most of the older coopers I worked with, they liked to dram, and that was basically what made them function, was their dram in the morning. That's how my grandfather, back in his day, they gave you free drams in the morning and free drams in the afternoon. He didn't want to do it, but he was told by his journeyman, "You're doing it because we're all doing it." But obviously, at the same time, they were also stealing whiskey from the warehouse because it was just that easy to do then. But these days, it's impossible unless you want to get sacked.
Yeah.
did you just expose another Pappy Gate? Is this another Pappy Gate? Oh, shit. Okay. This could be another documentary.
Oh, that's it.
I've heard the story of way back in the years, people filling gumboots and walking out the distillery with gumboots sloshing. It's like, Jesus, you really want your whiskey, don't you?
Well, I remember getting told a story by one of the coppersmiths telling us this. There was a roofing firm that came in to the distillery, Canvas distillery, when I was an apprentice. Yeah. And the two guys walked across the yard with a 15-foot length of plastic downpipe. And then they walked back about an hour later, and as they were walking across the yard, it was bouncing up and down. And they're like, there. And they'd managed to fill it full of whiskey and cap it off, and they got halfway across the yard and the security caught them. But there was a coppersmith at Canvas who actually made quite a bit of money on the side making belts. He would get a piece of brass pipe and squash it till it was an oval, put it in a curve, weld it shut, put a belt on it, and then put a cap on the top. And yet people wore it around their waist, under their jacket and under their clothes. And they used to walk out with that full of spirit every day. That was the way, because the Customs and Excise couldn't understand at one time where are the coopers getting this whiskey? Where's this whiskey coming from? But what they didn't realise was after it came out of the disgorging unit and the cask sat outside in the blazing sunshine, they started to sweat.
Yeah.
And what you were getting was at least a good 3-4 litres of in-drink settling in the bottom. And this is it was the best of stuff. And they couldn't understand why, and the customs are like, but they're deemed as empty by law, so where's it coming from? But that was a trick that Cooper's known for years. I remember one of the Coopers when I first started, he would get a pint bottle and fill it full of hot water and pour it into the cask, seal the cask up, harden the cask really tight to compress the wood to encourage the heat in the hot water to pull the in-drink out, and then sit it next to the old steam pipe at the bottom of the bench, and it used to sweat, and let it sit there for about a day and a half, 2 days, and you get a good 3 litres out of it.
Adapt and overcome, as we said.
Oh, that's it. The best of stuff. I've got lots of stories like that again.
I was going to say, this goes to YouTube, so who knows? There may be some retired people that pick up on it and go.
So the next barrel that we degorge, Crafty, do you mind if I look after it for a little while?
Yeah.
Stories that I've been told over the years and the things I've witnessed. You could write a book, and the characters as well in the whiskey industry. My grandfather, being a cooper, he liked a dram, and it was obviously his downfall at one point. He ended up with getting half his stomach taken away by an ulcer. So at that time, obviously the operation that he got, they went to give him an epidural. I think they hit a nerve in the bottom of his spine, so it paralysed him on the left. I think it was the left-hand side. His leg was in a caliper. So yeah, I actually had a bike with one pedal, and somebody stole that bike. They must have got a shock when they tried to bugger off with it with one pedal on it. But he used to go home every day. He used to go home every day with a wee quarter bottle. If you remember the old rally bikes used to get, and they had like a wee white pouch that sat in the back that used to hold your spanners and all that kind of thing. But a quarter bottle used to fit just perfectly. And he used to go home with a quarter bottle every day. But that didn't include the drink that he had drunk already during the day, that when he was repairing the casks, it was lying in the bottom. All the Coopers were the same. It was just that readily available. Yeah.
Now, what are you drinking tonight, John?
Well, I am on. I don't know if you can see it.
So do I have to let Dean know that you've been working there and you just wandered out with that in your one-pedal bicycle?
I don't know what happened. I just happened to turn round and it was just there, and I thought, well, when in Rome, eh? So it's delicious. It's matured in red wine cask, and I think this is because when we went to the wine and food festival, I tried along the list, and that was the one that I liked the most. It was absolutely delicious. Matured, and you get a French oak and a bit of hint of American oak and that. Really nice. I've got to say I'm impressed so far. Like I said earlier on, I need to start to go through the rest of the inventory of Corolla just to make sure it's all right and it's up to standard, the Scottish standard that is. So I've still got a fair bit to go yet. I'm only about halfway done, so I'll get there.
You only got that today. Hang on, you got that at 5 p.m.
Come on, I'm a Scotsman. That's just enough to give me a good riff in the morning. It's a broad jam. It goes down too easy.
So you'd be looking forward to ripping into some of the Australian wine casks and New Zealand wine casks and different flavors. Yeah, definitely.
The wine side of things, I've repaired God knows how many wine casks over the years, but the wine is a side I don't know much about, and it's a side I'd really like to find out more about it, and go to a lot of wineries and sample the goods kind of thing. I've never drunk much wine in my career. It's always been whiskey. So this is a learning curve for me on that side. So I'm looking forward to that part. The sampling.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting for you, isn't it? Because it's not that you're coming over and you're going to be doing the same. It's completely different operation. You're the man. Robbie's going to give you the space, and it's exciting times ahead for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And,
absolutely. As I was saying to you earlier, so just so the viewers know, the Murray River Cooperage, right? I'm based down. We've got 3 sites, as I said to you. I'm based down in the Yarra Valley. John's in charge up there at Corowa. He's in charge of the Cooper. I'm not a Cooper, and I've never professed to be one. Right? I've never told anyone I am. The finer details. I know a lot about barrels, but I'm not a Cooper, and I haven't done that apprenticeship, so I never professed to be one. We got John here, and he's in charge. That cooperage is his, and he runs it as his own. And I'll give him that space to do it. And he's setting it up at the moment. And I reckon, realistically, probably 6 weeks to get it set up, running properly, and it's going to be him. And when you call, email, message on Instagram or whatnot, the Murray River Cooperage, you're going to be speaking to people that, John and people that he trains and really know about coopering, seriously know about coopering. A generation in the coopering industry, and if there's an answer that he can't, if there's a question that he can't answer, then it's not worth knowing, mate. That's all there is to it, and it's his thing, and I want him to run with it, and we're excited about where we're going. It's a really, really exciting time coming up.
Like I said to you, I say if the apprentices, no question's a stupid question. At the end of the day, I've learned a lot in 32 years, and I've worked with a lot of different guys in the business, and I'm still learning. And I'm looking forward to meeting some of the Coopers over here as well. I'd like to hear their story, see how they've done in the business over the years. and work with them as well as the distillers as well. You know, I'm over here to impart knowledge and pass knowledge on to make sure that Australia is not losing out on, especially distillers. At the end of the day, I've heard a lot of scary stories about people getting ripped off with fake casks and all that kind of thing. And I'm very passionate about my trade, being a family tradition for me anyway. And my brother still works over in Scotland. Tried to get him over, but he's a bit busy at the moment. But he says maybe sometime in the future. But
we'll get him.
He's still
We'll
there.
get him here.
My cousin's still working as a cooper over in the same cooperage. So it's I'm very passionate about it, and I'm always learning. There's so much to learn. But now that I'm over here and I need to talk to all you guys and I need to meet people in the industry, cooper or distiller, winemaker, I need to hear your side of the story. And the cooperages have got an open door policy. If you want to come and have a word or talk and even learn some things, we can accommodate you. It's an open book.
And it's important for us. It's important for us, Crafty. We're like I said, I took John with me on his third day here to Sydney. I'm going to take him over to Tasmania in the next couple of weeks. I want him to come out and meet everyone, you know, and explain to them what we have going on here, and you know the lineage that we have and the knowledge that we have. It's important to me, yeah. Geez, I'm excited. I'm excited about the future. It's going to be amazing, and at the end of the day, if we can just help, if we can help the community and the industry, then I'm happy. Obviously, we need to make a few dollars. That's what business is about. But you know, we want to help as much as we can, bridge that gap and get everyone's knowledge up. And it's exciting times. And we're going to do it. It's I have no doubt.
Mate, that's awesome. Yep. That's
definitely.
You can hear the passion in both your voices. You're on a mission. It's clear. It's exciting times to be here. There's a lot of opportunities opening up there, John. And what's really nice is, John, you're showing humility there in your last comments, which I thought was really, really nice. It just shows, as you said, you can be in an industry for a long time, but you keep an open mind. You want to continue to learn, that thirst of knowledge. That's what drives passion. Yep. So, mate, congrats on that. That's
definitely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Absolutely.
My firm, I would say to the apprentices as well, over the years, I say there's no I in team. You've got to learn, and every day's a school day. So learn from your mistakes and be humble about it. Yep. Don't think you know everything, because you didn't. And you'll always find somebody who knows more than you. So just learn from it.
Yeah. And you now know that Smoko is not an official break, and we don't all smoke. So that's the learning for the day for you there, John. All good. All right, guys. Well, on that note,
so hang on, just because we have one of our sponsors on board tonight. So do you want to just go through our sponsors?
Oh, yeah. We'll quickly run through our sponsors. So, yes, we're a professional podcaster. So we have
who actually give us money occasionally.
Who give us money, yep. So it helps to buy things like video gear and produce beer coasters, which there was a few of those at the ADA conference there, Robbie. I don't know if you managed to see them, but they were everywhere. Shooting the shit beer coasters. So,
really?
Yeah, they were around about. Okay, so obviously one of our sponsors tonight, Barrel Brokers. So if you'd like to know more about Barrel Brokers, get on their website and also check out the cooperage, Murray River Cooperage. Also check out Mount Slide Distilling Co., which is Robbie's distillery operation, and also what was the other one, Robbie? The independent bottling.
Barrel House. Barrel House 28.
Barrel House 28, independent bottler. So Robbie is not shy on taking on things. Next to Barrel Brokers, we have Burns Welding Fabrication in Griffith for distilling equipment, tanks, brewery equipment as well. Then we have Wayne Oak, Andrew Young, Cooperage from the Barossa. So that's who chimed in earlier on, John, asking about the apprenticeship end of apprenticeship thing. So then we have CCL, producers of labels for the industry and the wine industry. Saverglass, major bottle supplier in Australia. Transwood Cooperage, Dave and Laurie down in Tassie. I think you know them. So, the Cooperage one of the Cooperages down in Tassie. And then Wild Wogan, which is spring water, natural spring water from the Wolgan Valley, which is not that far from my shed. And that's where my water comes from for making my whiskey. So, so thanks to all our sponsors.
We do honestly thank all of our sponsors for being such great sports, putting up with us.
Absolutely, yeah. No, they're an important part. Okay, so we'll wrap it up now, guys. John, we'll leave you with your bottle there and have a nightcap.
Oh, definitely. Aye.
Have a wee dram. Yeah.
I might see it. I'm not promoting it here, but I do like a rusty nail, so that might be my nightcap. A Drambuie and a whiskey mix, delicious.
Right now, you need to just find the Australian equivalent of a Drambuie, and I'm sure there's something out there, isn't there, Robbie?
Absolutely.
I'm sure there is.
It'll be out there.
Definitely. I've started to try all these fortified wines. I'm looking forward to that.
Oof,
I think at this stage you have to look down in Tassie, but anyway, we'll forge ahead.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Robbie. Thanks, John.
Good on you guys.
No worries.
Take care. Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
And we'll catch you around the community, eh?
I can't go to an event without running into you, mate. I'm sure we'll have a cuddle at some stage soon.
Yeah, we'll catch up soon.
He's a bit like Colgate. He gets in everywhere.
That's all right. Good on you, lads. Cheers.
All right, guys. We'll see you around. Thanks.
Bye-bye.